Hello. It's been quite a while since I did a live again. I'm hoping that I can get an audio check um, just to make sure I've got everything set up okay. I'll give you a moment. I'll just keep talking until somebody puts in chat. Hello, Shill. How are you? Thank you for the ordering. The sound is good? Yeah, thank you. Well, tonight we're supposed to be talking about the Rose Petal Homicide case that just concluded on Friday with a verdict. But because I had done all of the recordings post without a live chat, and I was getting a lot of messages about how people were feeling about the testimony day to day and in regards to the verdict itself. Um, the defendant, Zachary Hughes, well, people had opinions. So I thought I'd do a live to see if you guys wanted to chat about it. I put up a poll and people were interested. So I hope a few people will come in that want to discuss it. But I wanted to go over the evidence, any of the questions that anybody had about things that happened during the trial. It was indeed a very emotional trial. Christina Parcell does not appear to be a victim that people could say was just innocent completely. A lot of the information that came out involved abuse of a child, and that can be a topic that really gets people emotionally involved, gets people charged up. And a lot of things that happened during the trial were very unsettling for me because of the law. Basically, an understanding of the law and the laws that protect victims. The trial itself was for her murder. Zachary Hughes murdered Christina Parcell. And I can say that now because he's been convicted, guilty by his peers, by a jury of his peers. And it didn't really take him that long. Uh, Only like I think just about 3 hours plus. And during the trial, though, when I mean that it settled, unsettled me a bit, was because victims are not supposed to be put on trial for anything during the trial for their crime, any crimes or anything like that. Christina Parcell was murdered by Zachary Hughes. But during his defense, he wanted to say why. His belief that she was abusing her child. She had been in a custody battle with the child's father, John Mello, who during the trial was arrested for conspiracy for murder because of Zachary Hughes' testimony. He took the stand and admitted that John Mello offered him money twice to kill Christina Parcell because he believed the child was being abused. Now, there was an advocate involved. There were those that did investigate these allegations in regards to Christina Parcell during the custody battle and prior to the murder. It was investigated. There was no evidence to show that that was happening. However, during the murder investigation, evidence was found in a locker supposedly used by Bradley Post at the cigar bar that he worked, where a hard drive and a USBs were found that had CP on them. And there appeared to be pictures of Christina and the daughter. Now, that trial hasn't happened yet, so we don't know what that actual evidence is, because even during this trial for Christina Parcell's murder, none of the investigators were able to indicate that is what they saw. What they did actually come forth and indicate was the harassment campaign that was organized by John Mello with the help of Zachary Hughes to embarrass and intimidate Christina Parcell with nudes from way back in 2000, I think, in 9, when she was with John Mello. Well, they were together for years. They separated in 2015. And the custody battle got really strong in 2017. And this is when John Mello started to harass Christina Parcell with admittedly pictures of nudity from when she was younger, in things that she admitted in an affidavit that happened years and years and years ago. They promoted URLs for websites to make it look like she was involved in prostitution. They had an affidavit from one man after advertising on Craigslist with a picture of her for anybody who had knew her or saw her at any time. If John Mello was willing to pay Zachary Hughes to kill Christina Parcell, I ask the question, would he not also pay a witness in a custody case? I did a little research on John Mello, and he has been accused of harassment in other things, and he has a reputation of going too far. He's on Facebook, and he's not got the best reputation with others. He's a bit odd, I would admit. I can't really make a factual statement that this is something he does all the time, but it was proved in court that he was, and there are charges that both Zachary Hughes and John Mello still have to face in regards to the harassment of Christina Parcell. Well, for me, putting the victim on trial this way was very disconcerting to me. I do know that anything to do with a child as far as abuse or like is absolutely horrendous and cannot be condoned in any manner. But it was the defense trying to use it for jury nullification to outrage the jury so much that they would say that it was justified. Her killing was justified because Zachary Hughes took that stand and said he killed her. In graphic detail, explained how, and then tried to say that he did it for defense of another. And clearly the law for defense of another says there has to be imminent danger. Not that you think a child's being abused. You need to see it. It has to be happening right in front of you. Because imminent danger, the person you're defending should at least be present. And something should be going on. You don't take months to plan a murder for imminent danger. You don't take months to figure this out on how to do it. You don't actually stage the body to make it like so horrendous and then cover up your crimes. Imminent danger is to be used for something defense of another. Oh, in the act, while something's going on, somebody goes to attack a child with a hatchet, you stand in front of them and shoot them. That is defense of another. That is imminent danger. I mean, yes, take it to law enforcement. Exactly. And they say, well, we tried, but we wanted John Mello to have his child and be able to go back to Italy. And so that kind of justified it. And I was like so creeped out by the testimony. It's really, yeah. No one would think it. Hey, Mrs. Cassandra, no one would think it is justified. I know I didn't. I know I didn't. And Anna, hello. It is good. I'm thinking it's Tuesday too, Mrs. Cassandra, because I'm a little off my game, but I am coming back tomorrow. I've got a full boat to talk to you all about tomorrow. But I was asked to come out here and talk about this because everybody was kind of feeling the way I was. Zachary Hughes completely creeped me out. Now, I've been watching some of the psychologists who do the post-trial or review. They look at the court hearings, and they look at the court trials, and they look at the defendant, and they try to analyze things that are going on. And although they couldn't say exactly what, they started to express, especially the one, Dr. Berry, she started to express the same thing I was feeling, a complete unsettling when he spoke on the stand. Like, there was just something so reserved and almost calculating. It's almost like every word was calculated for the jury to actually go with the law. Like, especially the part when he was going over how he killed Christina. And he said he didn't really want to. His body was reverting against it. Trying to show some kind of moral compass, that he knew what he was doing is wrong. In, if it was a death penalty case, I could understand him doing that. And I also understand it because, like, he didn't want to get life. That's for sure, for the murder. He knew he was going to have consequences. He absolutely knew it. But he was hoping not to get life, because life in South Carolina comes with a no parole clause. He will not come up for parole. If he did, I'm sure Christina's sister would be there at every hearing, because when John Mello got arrested during the trial, she showed up at the bail hearing, and she spoke for Christina. She brought Christina's ashes to the bond hearing, that night, and told John Mello that she would be at every hearing if she could, and she definitely, once he was convicted, be at every parole hearing to make sure he didn't get out of jail. And reminded him that he did this to his family, that he tried to have Christina killed, that he incited Zachary Hughes to this. Now, when Zachary Hughes took the stand and tried to explain to the jury why he felt so strongly about this, and brought up an adopted sister who he thought was evil, just plain out evil, what he didn't stress enough was that he was talking about a 10-year-old child. 10 years old. He was calling her evil. A child who came from an orphanage in Russia, who could have had many types of disorders, detachment disorder, just been, some type of PTSD just from the situation. A 10-year-old that's adopted into a foreign country, was not in therapy, was not getting any help, was just called evil. There's so many things about this case that completely unsettled me. But Zachary Hughes was the biggest one. His sense of morality, that only he could set things right, that he was judge and jury for everything. This is what I was thinking. This is what I was thinking, like, while he was testifying. But at the sentencing, after the verdict, when his father stood up and said how his family supported what he did, like, they were sorry that Christina was dead, but that Zachary Hughes had such a strong sense of moral, that he was the most moral person they'd ever met, and this was his son. It just made me crazy. I feel for the parents and the siblings that lost their brother, their child. But Zachary did this willingly. Zachary Hughes did this willingly. He planned it. He said there was no other way. And it's funny because he planned it right before John Mello would lose rights to custody because of the time frame. I think John Mello had a lot to do with inciting Zachary Hughes into this situation. I don't think he was manipulated. I do think he went into this knowing exactly what he was doing. He made it very clear on that stand that he knew exactly what he was doing, that he had planned it, and that he thought about it carefully. He stressed that a lot. He said those words. I thought about it carefully for a while and decided it was the only thing to do. I do think there's something wrong with him. Like, Mrs. Cassandra, I'm with you. Like, there's something very unsettling about this man. It's like when you read the stories of serial killers who go around and kill prostitutes or women they think have wronged them because they're trying to remove a blight from the earth, and they say so. Or the killers that say God told them to, like some voice in their head. Oh, it's so unsettling and just makes me wonder how Zachary Hughes could call anyone else evil when there is blood on his hands. Calculated blood. He said he did the right thing. He said he was right. Anna, you're correct. He was proud of it. He seemed proud of it and didn't back down at all. No regret, no remorse. He said he did the right thing. He practically said he would do it again. The defense during this trial was adamant to get the information in about the allegations against Christina Parcell. And I had to say, I don't know, you guys, besides Zachary Hughes giving everybody I talked to the creeps, I mean, he really did. He's a fantastic pianist. I listened to some of his playing and he's brilliant. But doesn't mean he's not psychopath or a sociopath. One of the paths. Definitely not a path that I want to be anywhere near. He definitely just unsettled me very much. Like goosebumps, the whole thing. It was chilling. I don't mean to be over dramatic about it, but it definitely disturbed me. It every day it disturbed me. The one thing that I could take away from the trial, besides the bad audio and the long breaks, the constant sidebars because the judge doesn't like objections in front of the jury, the continual efforts of the defense to get allegations against Christina in and disparage her character and to try her for her misdeeds in that courtroom. Judge Fant, Patrick Cleburne Fant III, I have to give him a lot of credit. Man, was he in a difficult spot. Because, evidence that the defense wanted to bring forward could only disparage the victim. And there are rules against it. And yet he understands that if that is the reason the man committed murder, the man is entitled to his defense. He's entitled to take the stand. He's entitled to the best defense he can get in a fair trial. So Judge Fant continuously tried to balance that back and forth and back and forth. And then Zachary Hughes took the stand and repeatedly violated the court order to keep the allegations against Christina Parcell to a minimum and only talk about what he knew to be true or how he felt for state of mind. But nope, this man violated that order repeatedly. He violated it so often. He was reprimanded, court stopped, jury was removed, there were sidebars. He was instructed over and over again by his defense team and the judge himself, but he did it anyway. He even received a contempt of court and got 6 months in jail before he was even convicted, before the verdict was read. During testimony at one of those sidebars, when they muted and we don't get to see what's going on, it was reported by, I think it was Fox Carolina News on their blog, because they had reporters in the classroom, in the courtroom, in the courtroom, actually telling us what was going on, that they were witnessing during when we weren't allowed to have camera. Okay, even when the jury was out, the only time we were allowed to have camera and audio is when the jury was present, when there was going to be stuff presented to the jury, because under Carolina law, that is public access. What is in front of the jury is in front of us. Okay, now you could see everything if you were in the courtroom and you could hear it, but they weren't going to live stream it. So there were reporters, they were blogging, and I was following that blog, and they did come back and give him contempt, 6 months. He said the judge instructed him again on the parameters of the testimony that he could give in regards to accusations against the victim, and also against the charges that were pressed on Bradley Post. He was arrested. He's the fiance of Christina Parcell, the one who discovered her body. He is facing charges for what was found in his locker. And they actually tried to keep that to a minimum too, because he's entitled to a fair trial. Christina, the victim here, Christina Parcell, is also entitled to a fair trial for allegations such as this. Well, she's not here anymore to receive one. And Judge Fant was trying to walk that fine line of administrating the law and the fine balance between giving the defense what they need for a fair trial in protecting the rights of the victims and the victim's family and justice for the state. He was a very affable man. He was very friendly. The way he talked to the jury was just divine. But that look that he gave attorneys afterwards, like he would be smiling at the jury and talking to them, and they would leave the room, and he would turn around and stare straight at the attorneys. And I would never want anyone to look at me like that. It was like, Daddy's here to tell you what you did wrong. I'm going to set you straight. Let me tell you how it's going to be. He had such a stern, precise look, like, all right, let's get this done. I was like, whoa, it's what you want. You want the judge that protects the jury and keeps things going as well and protects the victim, but you also want the judge on the side of the law, making sure that he's going to go against the attorneys for both the state and the defense. Like, he wasn't too kind about the state either, tiptoeing around things, and not actually following his precise rules on the situation. But I really did like him as a judge. Hey, Jean, how you doing? I know, Mrs. Cassandra, right? Like, they can say whatever they want. How kind of them, since she can't defend herself. Exactly. And what really annoyed me, I was appalled, was that they were putting her on trial, and she's the victim here. She was murdered. And this man admits to murdering her, and they still insisted on blaming the victim. I was happy with the verdict that the jury came back with, and it didn't take them long. They asked the right questions too. They wanted to clarify everything, especially about murder and malice. They needed to know the definition of malice to see if it applied here, because he didn't hate Christina Parcell. He didn't have a personal relationship. He had never met her, ever, until he showed up at the house, handed her flowers, and stabbed her to death. So they were trying to figure out if that was actual malice. But when malice definition was explained and included things like the planning of the demise of another, the going out of your way to accomplish this, it fit, because he took months to figure all this out. He woke up on one day and said, today's not the day, and then rescheduled it for the next day. He bought everything that he needed. He made the plan. He discussed the plan with John Mallow in little cryptic messages back and forth in regards to buying gloves and a hoodie and wearing a hat, which, by the way, a lot of that instruction came directly from John Mallow. Little hints here and there on what to do and how to do it. I'm glad he was arrested. John Mallow, the whole time I'm wondering, why isn't he part of this trial? Why isn't he under arrest? There was 1,700 WhatsApp conversations between John Mallow and Zachary Hughes. Now, not all of them were about Christina Parcell, but a good portion of them for almost a year were about the harassment and then eventually murder of Christina Parcell. The other thing I wanted to bring up and see how you guys felt about it, maybe it's just me, and it's a little bit touchy, so please give me a little bit of grace. But in Zachary Hughes' testimony, when he spoke of the child, a child he met at the park with their father listening to music, I got seriously creeped out how he spoke about her, how she was advanced for her age, that she could talk like a full-grown human, an adult is what I mean, conversations. The way he spoke about her, ethereal, like, reminded me of how you hear people that are enamored with children underage a little too much. And I don't want to make any accusations against him, but I found it quite hypocritical for him when he was actually sitting up there all creepy out with a child he barely knew, outraged. And yet he could not give grace to a 10-year-old in his own household that was traumatized at an orphanage, you know? Why was there all of this outrage for a child he barely knew, and none for the one in his house? It just, I really think there's something there. I don't know. I hate to get on, speculation, but it totally creeped me out. The way he spoke about John Mellow's daughter, red red flags went off for me. Warning bells were going off. If I heard anybody talk about my young daughter that way, they'd never be around my young daughter. A full-grown man speaking the way he did about that child. Mm-mm, never. And that's just me. I don't know. Well, it could be that it just creeped me out so much that maybe I was making too much of it. That's a good possibility, because just the way he spoke on the stand, I was so unsettled. I was unsettled watching him in court. I was unsettled most of the time he came on the screen. Hmm. Well, anyway, let me hear from some of you. Like, what was, let me help. What do you think was the most startling thing you heard during the trial? Testimony, evidence, either side, state or defense. Like, what really gave you pause? Like, was there any particular moment in this trial, if you've watched the videos? Hey, Mippet, good to see you. Hope you're feeling better. Jinju, it's good to have you here. Good to see you. That boy did look a bit creeper stalker. Yes, yes. Just the look, the way he was acting. But then when you heard him talk, you know, Shil says he doesn't seem to have remorse. He's cold. Exactly. So calm about the whole thing. A life was taken. In Here's the thing. They struggled. She was 160 pounds. He's 160 pounds. She's 160 pounds. He's gonna kill her. She knows it, and she fought back. She fought back hard because a lot of those stab wounds were like misses and just like hitting, that he couldn't really get it. Like, because she was moving around, she was fighting, she really was. Okay. And 30 times she was stabbed. 30 times. Okay. And it was a battle. There was blood. Okay. I mean, he repositioned, the body and moved things around. The table was moved. The couch had been slid. She must have fallen into the couch at one point. There was blood everywhere on the couch. The puddles of blood everywhere. Her phone was covered in blood. Her fingernails were busted. There was DNA everywhere under her nails from Zachary Hughes. Even though he was wearing gloves and everything, she did scratch his face. He did get home and he saw that he was scratched. Was it his face or his shoulder or neck? Like, she did get flesh because there was DNA under her fingernails. Even if he didn't confess to this and come outright and tell everybody, he was definitely going to get nabbed. They tried to say that one of the witnesses couldn't have seen him because it was early. And I'm like, nah, he went early and waited. That's why they showed the underpass. That's why they showed the bike and everything could be under there and nobody see it. Because as soon as she got out of the car, he was right there. He could not have planned it to ride down the street just in time to get there. That's not what happened. He was laying in wait. Well, the defense tried to skirt around that by saying because they never showed her a picture of the bike, the witness, until years later, it didn't occur to them. They were getting ready for trial. They already had it on film and had her testifying what she saw. So, like, that's what they thought they needed. And then they tidied it up more in to see if they could have more for the trial. They always go back and re-talk to witnesses. I didn't think that was a big gotcha on the defense at all. You know, um, that happens. Hey, Couch, good to see you. Well, anyway, that stalkerish, that creepiness was the big thing for me. That was kind of hard to get past. Anybody have a favorite positive, lighthearted moment, maybe with the judge or the jury? I have one, but I'm going to wait and see what you guys say first. I'll give you a moment. I'm going to take a sip of water while you guys think. I will say my voice is getting a little bit better. Hope you're able to understand me more than last week. I tried to do a live last week, and I mangled every word I spoke. No, as far as lighthearted moments, it's hard to have a lighthearted moment in a murder trial. I get that, especially with all the other stuff they were throwing in there. On not only was it a horrible, bloody murder, I mean, just beyond vile, the number of stab wounds, the evidence, the staging of it with the rose petals, trying to, I mean, what was that all about? And it's not like he staged that part of it, because he does admit that's part of the altercation. There was part of the battle of her fighting for her life, was knocking that stuff all over the place. But him dragging the body turned out not to be to stage it for any kind of polls, but basically to put it out of view of the window, to give him more time in case anybody walked by or saw anything, to complete his getaway, so to speak, his plan, to take the bike to the truck and just to get out of the area. You know, well, one of the more lighthearted parts was after the judge, for the third time that day, was bringing the jury back, and he sent the jury out. He talked to the lawyers for like 5 minutes. He brought the jury back in just to dismiss them again, and the jury laughed, and they were just they burst out laughing, and he was like, again, I'm so sorry, and they just like burst out laughing, like, that they were getting break for lunch for the day, or dismissed for the day, you know, because we did have a few early dismissals for the jury, because there was so much going on between the attorneys, the state, and the defense in not violating back and forth uh, the orders the judge gave in regards to the testimony that would come in regarding Bradley Post's charges in Christina Parcell allegations. He was very clear about what they could and couldn't do, and they just kept pushing it. In re-education was happening on a minute by minute basis, basically. Well, the lighthearted part with me was the judge's demeanor with the jury, and how much the jury appreciated it, and how appreciative he was of their time. Remember, this is a trial that didn't happen last month because they couldn't get anyone to answer the jury summons. They did not have enough people show up. And that was a problem, you know. But I'm sure, like, 1 week of trial, one solid week of trial, in a pretty quick verdict, and sentencing right after that, within 30 minutes, gave the defense 30 minutes. The state was ready with what they wanted, and the judge had heard the whole thing, and he was pretty much ready. Gave him 30 minutes, and then sentencing. We've had that before, not have to come back for a different date. Um, we've had immediate verdict before, and I kind of prefer it that way. But sometimes, especially in death penalty cases, or cases that are very complicated, and they will actually defer and make a separate trial date, like they did for Sarah Boone. Hmm. It is crazy, Mrs. Cassandra, that no jury, they couldn't get a jury. They couldn't get a jury. Yep. Speaking of crazy cases, when we talk tomorrow, there's one of them in there that's like, going to make you scratch your head a little bit on what's going on with it. Well, but I think that just about wraps it up for me. Like 45 minutes of me saying how I felt about the trial, and just trying to give you guys a way to express yourselves also. Yeah, I did. I did, Mrs. Cassandra. It's getting crazy. It's getting crazy. I don't think I'm doing Diddler. Like last week we talked about P. Diddy and we talked about Jay-Z, uh, Busby dropping Jane Doe's case. And I see that Jay-Z has not dropped his lawsuit against Busby. Um, but I did see a couple of things in there, Mrs. Cassandra, about P. Diddy actually claiming racism in the prostitution charges. And he's actually trying to turn this on like the state of New York is just being a prude in regards to, free love and expressing yourself and doing whatever you want in the bedroom. But he keeps forgetting it's a RICO case. It's not so much about that. They just use that as the enticement for what he was trying to cover up. The RICO is the enforcement, the threats, the abuses he was doing to try to cover up actions. Like RICO is the making of money in an illegal enterprise. Like he's got more to worry about. He's like, and now he's calling racism because of the prostitution charges. It's a little bit. He is trying to turn it political, Anna. I do agree. I think he is playing on the sentiment these days in a divided United States. I really do. I really do. Yeah. I know it's ridiculous. I don't blame you for being shocked because I'm like, really? Like, no. How do you get racism from the prostitution charges? And also, he lost his appeal about the rate, the search and seizure that was done while he was in prison. He's lost all that. The judge finally put in orders on that. We'll go into greater detail about it, but probably not tomorrow. Probably at the next one. I don't think I had so much catching up to do. I didn't have time. But we also tomorrow morning we have Karen Reed's hearing. Um I'm gonna go live at 10:30 to update you on some of the motions that were filed in her appeal being lost and things like that. And then what preluded the need for this additional hearing that we have on what happened last week. Uh, that was wild. Hey, Paula. I am sorry you're having a rough day, Paula, but I'm glad that you're here and that we can all just say we're with you. Like, you're not alone. And I know those days can be hard. Been there. Yeah. I know how you feel. Not exactly, but let's just say it's tough as a child to start to navigate the world again without your parents here. And I understand that completely. It's like a whole new world. Different. It's never the same after that. We hear you. Yeah, we hear you. Well, Anna's stating that he's trying to turn it political. I definitely see that. They are definitely playing on the sympathies of the public. They are trying, since he's being somewhat tried in the court of the public court, because of how they dropped the indictment and everything and the sensationalism from the media. um I don't really blame them for turning it around. Of course, that's how things go these days, right? It seems like every case is like that, uh, people just coming forth with everything beforehand, before it even gets the trial, putting out evidence before it's actually entered into evidence in the court is just a little distasteful. And I get it, but, you know, I mean, in a criminal court, I see it done in civil all the time. And I actually have done it in civil because when I covered Johnny Depp, Mandy and I covered that evidence that was put out like every week. Like we went piece by piece. Um, but I don't do that for criminal cases. I'll talk about it and stuff like that. But like always with the caveat telling people we don't know what's going to be entered into evidence. If the jury only gets to go by what actually happens in the courtroom. I really felt for the jury in the Zachary Hughes case because They were told so many times, disregard that testimony, strike that answer. But how do you unring that bell when Zachary Hughes stood on that stand and accused Christine Parcell of abusing her daughter? How does the jury unhear that? Especially when he says it repeatedly. Repeatedly. And then he literally said to the jury, and the state has evidence of it they don't want you to see. As if there was a conspiracy. Yeah. I mean, you just cannot, right? Oh, yes, Anna. I hear you on that one. Tomorrow we are going to talk about Luigi Mangione. And I totally feel the political atmosphere in New York City right now in regards to that case. It's hypocrisy 101. You know? Uh the 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 mayor in the chief of police in a documentary talking about evidence they haven't even given to the defense yet. Yo, what? Okay. I mm, listen, I you know how I am about bad legal manners. The mayor in the chief no. No, 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 no. This is not your drum roll, dude. This is not a campaign. This is a murder trial. You've got charges here, criminal. It's about the law and not your damn campaign. Like, get back off the stage, dude. Back off the stage, okay? Yeah, they are. They're making a mistake because, Luigi Mangione is one of the best lawyers. Karen Agnavola, I have admired her for quite some time. I watched her on commentary on Mighty's Touch with some of the lawyers on there, and I gotta say, she is not playing. She is not playing. And the judge in this case, when she tried to talk about it, the judge shut her down. And I'm like, oh, see, like they just, that is a mistrial in the making. I kind of agree, Gene. Gene, this may definitely be there. It's definitely going to be part of an appeal if anything doesn't go their way. Also, the fact that they have him in federal custody still, okay, as if he's such an extreme risk, even though they said the state could go first. And he should be in state custody, not federal. If they're making it difficult for him to meet with his lawyer, they're not giving him any time with her in the court. It's not cool. It's definitely it's not going to go in. If they really think he's that dangerous, I don't get it. He's wearing a vest. When they arrested him, they had more police. The mayor was in the perp walk. Okay, if that doesn't tell you there's something wrong, right? Like Brian Kohlberger allegedly killed 4 people, and there were only 2 officers, 2 sheriffs with rifles escorting him. Why do they need 8 for Luigi Mangione, who's just smiling the whole time as he's walking down the hallway? It's absolute ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Also ridiculous is his fan club out there on Twitter posting pictures of him like he's an angel, like from above. Like he's like the best thing since white bread. Like I'm just like, okay, people, calm down, calm down. This is a murder trial after all, you know. Yeah, Anna, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yes, Mayor Adams is in a lot of legal trouble, but Trump needs him to advocate for him. So they have just petitioned the Department of Justice to drop all the charges, bury the case. I kid you not, Gene. Basically, they did. He's not up on anything anymore. They're getting rid of it all. Yup. And don't worry about the typo. I knew what you mean. I knew what you mean. Adams is got a lot to worry about. He could use a good public relations campaign, but he shouldn't be using a murder trial to do it. It just looks bad all the way around. It's just so obvious. Exactly. The Department of Justice has no authority in state cases, but they're trying it. Anna, you know what? That's the problem right now. The letter of the law doesn't seem to matter. Either they don't acknowledge it or they just disregard it. They're doing whatever the heck they want. And that's a whole nother topic of unsettled conversation. That just makes my stomach really go sour and turn right away. What is going on now in the disregard of the letter of the law? Yep, he did. They do. Yes, you're correct, Jean. You're not done, but you could see the push, right? It doesn't look good. Yeah, it's not quite yet. The judge, Jean said, it's not quite yet. The judge tossed it to another lawyer to argue for continuation. Yes, they did. Yes, but they're gonna bury it. They're gonna bury it for sure. Well, they definitely shouldn't be on HBO documentaries on open cases. This is crazy. I understand the defendant can do stuff like that, like in Karen Reed. Like she takes a mic and goes and gets an interview every chance she gets. That's her right. It ain't everything gets used against her in the courtroom by the state. That's their right. But the actual people involved, public officials, and people involved in the case, like the police commissioner or whoever that was up there, get out of here. You are not supposed to be up there doing that. That's just not a good look. It's just not good. That's interfering. That's putting, that's weighing in politically on a case that you should not, you know. Mm-mm. It's prejudicial, absolutely prejudicial to Luigi Mangione getting a fair trial, hands down. And if it doesn't get everything tossed, it will definitely be part of the appeal. Well, Karen, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow, but Karen Agnifola, she's on it. She's an excellent attorney. But on that, if you guys don't have any more questions or things you want to say about the Rose Petal homicide, Zachary Hughes' trial that just concluded, I think I'm going to call it a night. I can hear my voice is starting to go, and I want to save it for tomorrow. I'm going to go drink some more tea and have some spoonfuls of honey to lubricate those cords. It's. I hope you all have a good night, and it was nice to have you all here in the chat and to have a little conversation again. I did miss you guys. I really have missed talking to you guys a lot. But I'll be back tomorrow morning, starting 10:30 a.m. It for Karen Reed in Massachusetts and for this motions hearing. And hopefully we're going to be hearing a little bit about that motion to dismiss that the defense keeps talking about. So we'll see, But like Mrs. Cassandra said, thank you very much. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Comment. I do love to hear from you guys. Ask me questions, recommend cases, just make a comment about what you like, even what you don't like, because I do want to hear from you. I want to get better. I want to know, Well, definitely share it for others that you think might enjoy the content, and I will see you all again tomorrow. Have a great night. And again, thank you all for being here.